In Lesson 5.8, we're going to start talking about the distributive property, and our essential question is, how do I use the distributive property to write equivalent expressions? So you're probably already familiar with the associative and the commutative properties of addition and multiplication, and now we're going to introduce the distributive property, which actually includes both addition and multiplication. I want you to look at workbook page 195. They give you a couple different examples of the distributive property, but I want you to take a look at example 7. I think example 7 really helps you understand how the distributive property works. Maria said the area of the big rectangle, and when I say the big rectangle, I'm talking about this whole thing here. The area of the big rectangle is the sum of the areas of the smaller rectangles, meaning if you can find the area of this rectangle right here, and then if you can find the area of this rectangle right here and add them up, you would have the total area of the whole rectangle. So that's Maria's strategy. However, Dave says the area of the big rectangle is its base times its height. You know base times height or length times width is going to give you the area of any rectangle. So here's your height. Your height is C, but your base, well, you actually have two bases. You have A and you have B. If you were to put A and B together, you would have the total base. So he is saying instead you could do A plus B, get that sum first, and then times it by C. So Maria recognized that there's two ways to solve this. Maria's strategy was to do A times C. A times C is going to give you the area of this rectangle right here, A times C. And then she said, okay, now we're going to do B times C, because B is the base, C is the height. That would give you the area of the little pink rectangle. And then put them together. So that's Maria's strategy, AC plus BC. However, Dave says, nope, I'm going to instead add the bases. I'm going to do A plus B to get the total base, and then I'm going to times it by my height of C. So his strategy was to do this. Notice the A and the B are in parentheses because we have to do the addition before we do the multiplication. We have to get the total base before we times it by the height. So let's explain this. Explain why AC plus BC equals A plus B, the sum of A plus B, times C. So let's see. AC plus BC, actually I should have these in lowercase letters because variables are usually lowercase. AC plus BC is the sum of the areas of the two smaller rectangles, and then the sum of A and B times C is the sum of the bases before multiplying the height. They are equal because they both give you the area of the big rectangle. Ooh, lots of writing. But that's a very, very important explanation here. You may see something like this again. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay, take a look at workbook page 196 now. Here it says the distributive property gives us two opposite ways to transform expressions into equivalent expressions. So we're talking about different ways that we can rewrite, when we have multiplication and addition happening. So the first way we can do this is distributing. We can distribute a factor to the terms of a sum or difference. Meaning, if I said, oh, distribute these papers, you probably think, okay, I'm going to hand them out. Well, that's what's happening here. You're going to look for the number or variable outside the parentheses, and you're going to distribute it. You're going to hand it out to all of the terms inside the parentheses, and you're going to do it through multiplication. So you're going to take this C and you're going to times it with the 5, and you're going to times it with the 2. C times 5 is going to give you, well, C times 5, or 5C. Just don't forget the coefficient of 5 needs to come first. And C times 2, again, well, that's just 2C. Again, I'm going to put the 2 in front because my number coefficient must come first. And then, you see this addition sign here? Well, that goes in the middle of them now. The other way you can look at this is to actually go backwards and pull out the common factor from the terms of a sum or difference. Meaning, what if you start with 5C plus 2C? Let's see, if I were to find the GCF of 5C, 5 times C, well, it's the only way I can make 5C, and 2 times C, that's the only way I can make 2C, the factor that they have in common is C. So what I can do is I can take out that common factor. I'm going to put the common factor outside the parentheses, and inside the parentheses are the other factors, and I'm going to bring that addition sign along with me. So either distributing a factor or pulling out a common factor. To distribute a factor means to take away the parentheses, and to pull out a common factor means to put in parentheses. Let's do a little more practice. This is at the bottom of workbook page 196. We're going to first do some practice with distributing, and then we're going to do some practice with pulling out a common factor. I'm just doing a couple with you, and then you can do some on your own. Take a look at number 2. That one looks very familiar. We kind of did that already. C is the common factor, and we can distribute it to A and to B by using multiplication, and you end up with A times C and B times C and the addition sign in the middle. Let's do that with number 3. Here I'm going to take this X. I'm going to, oops, my mistake. I didn't mean to move that whole thing. Alright, I'm going to take the X and I'm going to multiply it with the 2. So now I have 2 times X. I'm also going to take the X, I'm going to multiply it with the 3, so now I have 3 times X, and I've got an addition sign in the middle, so I'm going to put an addition sign in the middle here. Here's another one, X times Y, well that's X times Y. Notice I'm putting my variables in alphabetic order. I'm not going to, take off points if you don't put them in alphabetical order, but you should do that. I also have to do X times 2, which is 2X. Again, I'm going to put the coefficient, the number in front. And there's an addition sign here, so I'm going to put an addition sign there. Number 5 is already given to you. You'll notice this one actually has a subtraction sign in the middle, so I need a subtraction sign in the middle over when I rewrite it after distributing. Now, take a look at the other column. Now we're going to pull out a common factor. The first one is done for you. C is the common factor, so that goes outside the parentheses, and A and B go inside the parentheses. Take a look at the second one, 2X and 3X. Well, it looks like my common factor here is X. So I'm going to rewrite it so that 2 and 3 are in the parentheses. I see an addition sign here, so I'm going to put an addition sign there, and the X is going to go on the outside. Which, actually, I could even rewrite that as 5x if I wanted, because 2 plus 3 is the same as 5, so now I have 5x, but you don't have to do that. Let's see, yx plus 2x. It looks like, again, x is my common factor, so I'm going to put the y plus the 2 in the parentheses, and I'm going to put the x on the outside of the parentheses. Also keep in mind that the x doesn't even have to go at the end. I could decide that I'd rather have the x in front of the parentheses. It does not matter as long as the common factor is just outside the parentheses, either to the left of it or the right of it. And again, this last one is done for you, but you'll notice this one has the subtraction sign. So C is the common factor here. So C is outside the parentheses, and A and B are inside the parentheses, but this time with a subtraction sign. If you look carefully, you'll notice that in number 3, it's the same as number 3 on the other side. One was distributing and one was pulling out a common factor. So here are the takeaways. Here we have the definition of the distributive property. Remember, it deals with addition, sometimes subtraction too, and multiplication. And there's 2 ways to work with it. One way is to distribute a factor, and the other way is to pull out a factor. And you can see the examples below.